We don't want that. Welcome. It's Adele. It's just a few minutes before noon when we're about to start our session for Love Your Life, Thrive and Be Happy. So I'll just let everybody sort of get online. I'll step aside and just let you enjoy the sound of the waves and the beautiful view. I'm coming to you live on Facebook. It's Friday at noon Pacific Western Time. This is Malaspina Strait that we're on. So it's a beautiful view. I'm just going to step aside for a couple minutes. We're 1 minute before noon, and I'll let everybody get settled in. Please type in the keyboard where you're from. I would love to know who's joining us today, and I'll be back in a few minutes. So just enjoy the view. Okay. Hi, Michelle. Thanks for joining. Appreciate that. So yesterday we talked about awareness. What's happening in the random thoughts that move through our mind. And I gave the analogy of imagining yourself in a high-rise building in a big city. And you go to the window and you look down onto the street and you witness lots of cars going by. And so that analogy where you see all those cars going by in all types of directions is very similar to the thousands, possibly millions of thoughts that are going through your mind every moment. Our subconscious mind is extremely powerful, and it can process 400,000 times faster than our conscious mind, even though our conscious mind is the one that really moves us forward in life to the direction that we desire. So today's talk, to further give you another little stacking stool, step-by-step process of becoming aware of the thoughts that are in your mind, are about seeing the thoughts that keep us overwhelmed. And quite often these can be thoughts that dominate. So a healthy mind will, and I'm not saying you have an unhealthy mind, I'm just saying if you're not feeling empowered, more likely your thoughts can be dominating, meaning that they stay in a certain trajectory, you're focused in a certain way of thinking called filtering, and your mind is staying on a thought, a single theme for more than 5 minutes. And that is a bit of destructive empowerment. So today I want to just bring awareness to how to move through these dominating thoughts. And one of the things that we look for is the feelings of overwhelmed that comes along with a dominating thought. So when we feel overwhelmed, we're in our limbic brain, which is our middle brain, which processes all of our emotions. And this brain has been active since we were children, when we were learning through mimicking. If you've had kids or you got grandkids, you know that they repeat everything you say. They're trying to get it right, and then they run a pattern of behavior that mimics yours. So we become role models at all aspects of their early life. But what happens when we feel overwhelmed as a person, we are in our emotional state, which keeps us out of our cognitive brain. Even though they do function together, we need to learn how to switch brains, just like driving a standard car. If you're in first, you want to learn how to switch to second. So there's a process to that. So keeping yourself out of overwhelmed is a process of switching gears into your cognitive brain. And that journey is going to empower you to stay out of overwhelmed. And at the end of the session, I'll actually give you a beautiful NLP, Neuro-Linguistics Programming tool that you can use that will help you set a new pattern of behavior. So I recognized earlier on, if I can tell you a little bit of personal history, that when I was a child, I always wanted to be somewhere else. I wanted to be older. I wanted to be doing something important in my future. I wanted to be anywhere except for in the moment, enjoying all my friends and family and all of that. I was always looking into the future. And that's actually called futuring. And if we're doing a vision session, it becomes important. But if we're missing what's happening today, which is a building block for tomorrow, then it gets in the way. For myself, part of that was a bit of a safety net. I found it easy to talk to people on a business level, but I found it harder to connect with people one-on-one, where I really had to share my vulnerability, which now I do almost every day. So I'm a master at it. Not always, but I'm trying. So in my early days, I sort of wandered unconsciously through my life. It wove me in and out of relationships. I was an entrepreneur, which worked well because I was malleable. But I also found, according to my accountant, that I loved to put things together. But once that initial excitement was over, I wanted to move on to something else. So I needed to grow so that I could continue to be not only resilient in the life that I was living, but moving towards the future that I want. And like what happens in life happens, it took a broken heart for me to truly change the way I managed my behavior. So a broken heart took me to a full stop. This world wasn't big enough for the two of us, and I traveled as far across the globe as I possibly could so that that connection would be severed. But of course, if we learn about energetic sciences, we know that that connection is never really severed unless we emotionally sever it. So the world wasn't big enough. Here I was, landed in Thailand, where I couldn't read the language, I couldn't speak the language, I couldn't understand the language. And what that did is it made me stand completely on my own for the very first time. And luckily, it actually wasn't scary. I learned to be comfortable in the silence by myself. I had left behind quite a hectic existence, which was overwhelming. A breakup was overwhelming. I was extremely emotional, so therefore I wasn't maybe thinking clearly. I'll just hop on a plane and travel 2,000 miles and land in a country that I've never been to before. That's good thinking. But it was really, really good. There, while I sat and meditated on a beach, I learned to meditate while I was in Asia, I became comfortable with the silence and allowing my body and my mind to be silent and to take a break from what was happening externally, the things that I couldn't control. I learned pretty quickly that the only thing I could control was my mind. So I learned to listen to my heart, maybe live a little bit more with my intuition, with my gut, rather than listening to random overwhelming thoughts that were going through my head at the time. And through Broken, I was able to piece myself together. It wasn't pretty. But I gained a greater understanding of myself because I had to look at the ugly parts. I had to look at those little things that I didn't like about myself that were mirrored back to me in other ways. And it gave me an opportunity to heal those moments, to heal those broken pieces so that I could put them back inside myself and make myself whole and love myself for the, all of the good, the great, and the stuff that I needed to change. It is through pain that we are forced to change. I know that's not an easy thing, but psychologists tell us that the pain to remain the same must be greater than the pain to change. And that comes, I think, way back in our caveman days, where we are living in the cave and the saber-toothed tiger's out there, and our brains tell us that the safest place is to remain in the cave. And then a few days go by and we don't have any water, and we don't have any, beef jerky. None of that stuff's around, and then we have to leave the cave. That change from something that we know to be safe and secure, no matter how bad it might be, still makes our brain feel better, because change means moving through the unknown. And that does something to our brain that is overwhelming, unless we know how to fix it. And so here we're going to fix it. So I'd like you to raise your hand, because it does something important inside the brain, saying, I am willing to change. Because the only thing certain about this life is that everything is changing. And if we don't change along with it, then we might feel overwhelmed. It becomes part of our resilience, which is a survival skill. So welcome to change. Love it. Enjoy it. And grow. So one of the ways to minimize feeling overwhelmed is to look for one positive thing to do. And that positive thing must be something that leads you towards what you want. To be happy, to thrive, and to live the life, I won't use that finger, to live the life you really want. So just one little action. So when you look at other teachers that tell you how to do that, we look at things called the Zorro Circle. We look at compartmentalization. Zorro Circle I love because most people have watched the movie. So Shawn Achor, who has written books on happiness, brilliant speaker, has a great understanding of how the mind works. He talks about Zorro. The young man, if you remember in the movie, is kind of out of control. He's drinking too much, playing too much, living it up, but he's really out of control and he's overwhelmed with his life. And in comes a masked man called Zorro, an older gentleman who's got it all dialed in. And he's going to mentor this younger man to get his life into control and then to do something great with it. So what he does is he takes him to a cave, and he's got a big circle that's drawn in the middle of the floor on the cave. And he's going to teach him one thing. And he's going to teach him that he has to stay within this small circle until he masters this one thing. So whatever's happening outside the circle, whatever's happening outside the cave, whatever's happening in other areas of his life, don't exist. It's only the circle that exists. And when you step into that circle, you've given yourself permission to look at this. What I encourage some of my clients to do is to take some of that green painter's tape. Let's use an analogy of your desk. If you know what mine looks like, I need to use my own tool. So you look at your desk and it's covered with papers and it looks a little bit maybe unorganized. Maybe you like it that way. Maybe it works for you. But if it doesn't, because it doesn't work for many people, you take your painter's tape and you draw a little box, maybe 2 feet by 2 feet. And the only thing you have to clean today is that. So that sounds reasonable, doesn't it? So if you didn't have to do anything else except for that, then all of a sudden the overwhelmed at organizing your entire desk, let alone your entire life, goes away. So that's cool. It's a cool little mind game that immediately focuses us on one idea, one thought. And if we take it into our whole theme of happiness, thriving, and living the life we want, what I would suggest is that you look for the one thing today that will move you towards a happier tomorrow, that will make you feel productive, like you're thriving and passionate, and is moving you towards the life you truly love and deserve. So think deep in your mind, filter through what it is that we really want. It's important to know why you want it, because the what is sometimes money. But why do we want the money? Do we want the money so we can help our kids? Do we want the money so that we can go on a vacation and have a beautiful experience with the people we love? It's the why that makes us complete our journey so that we get what we want. And the how is to look at the first step that you have to take today to get you what you want. Know why it's important, and then you're there. So one step every day is all I'm asking for. Put your hand up. I'll do it. One step. I appreciate it. And now I'm going to step aside, and I'm going to let you just look at the view, take a couple of deep breaths in, because our lives are busy and we don't often take time just to breathe. And it settles our mind. So please just take a couple more minutes wherever you are in your busy day. Take a look at the water. It's kind of a beautiful hue today. Listen for the waves. Take a deep breath in and relax. I thank you for joining me today, and I will be with you again Monday at noon. But until then, thrive, be happy, and I hope you're really living the life that you love. See you then.